The Smith Wesson SD9VE 9mm, also available in 40 Smith & Wesson. Safety check for safety's alleys, unloaded, yay. So, why did I buy this when I had a Sigma before? Why did I get rid of the Sigma? Well, evolution, kids. This here is basically the weird bastard offspring of the Sigma series and the M&P. Now, if you watch my other video on the Smith & Wesson Sigma SW9VE, I really like the pistol. It's got a lot going for it, but it does have some things that I really didn't care much for. One of the things, right off the bat, was the proprietary rail. It had this weird rail that only fit certain items that were specifically sized for that pistol, as opposed to every other pistol maker out there which uses a Picatinny rail, which is what you see here. Finally, Smith & Wesson wised up and decided, hey, why don't we just make one for everybody, you know, that fits everything. Same thing on M&P, same thing on M&P Compact. Let's just put it on here. Voila, there you go. So, smart move on Smith & Wesson's part, fixed that. Another thing is it kind of had a really pointy edge there. The Picatinny rail on here is a little smaller, so it doesn't stick out so much. I was actually having a problem with this corner here poking through my holster into my side and into my belly, depending on where I was carrying it, so it was kind of annoying. The grip texture is another thing that they improved on here, I feel. They had that checkered kind of, it looked like this, but it was like all over the grip. And it, when you're carrying it on your side, if you're someone like me that doesn't have an undershirt underneath whatever shirt you're carrying it, this is just like a cheese grater on your side. It just, I mean, I could take my knuckles and just take skin off with it. It was ridiculous. But they improved it. They made it more like the M&P line. It's kind of a, I don't know if it's a stippling or what the heck you would call it. It's kind of a cobblestone texture maybe, but it's pretty much in line with their M&P line. It's pretty close. It's a different feeling kind of plastic. This is kind of a, I don't know, it feels like some kind of weird fiberglass stuff, and this just feels like some kind of, I don't know, ABS plastic or something. It's more shiny, and but otherwise the texture is it's a lot nicer on your hands. It's not aggressive. It's enough to get a nice solid grip on. It's not slippery whether your hands are sweaty or not, but a lot better. So, and they also added these little Taurus, I believe, calls memory pads, but I just call them little holding spots. But it's just if you keep your finger along the frame there, or when you do a thumb forward grip, your other thumb goes right there. Just kind of a, you know, not so much muscle memory, just somewhere you can just feel where your fingers are supposed to go, kind of. It's just a nice little touch. Otherwise, pretty much the same exact setup as the Sigma. In fact, the slide stop is identical to the old one. They did change the magazines slightly, and they are interchangeable between the SD series and the Sigmas. The magazines will work, but they changed this one where it has a more rounded shape, whereas the Sigma had this square foot looking thing, which was bizarre, and I don't know what their idea was behind that. But this, it just feels better, looks better, and to a small degree it does conceal just a hair better just because of that. The one I had, I actually took a Dremel and just rounded it off to make it look like this, but that was not an option at the time. They didn't even have the SD series when I got that. So. And also one little other thing that they fixed, the sights are slightly different in that these are interchangeable with the M&P sights. You can actually take a set of these ordered for like night sights or whatever and poke them on here. These are polymer sights that come on here, as opposed to the M&P line uses metal sights. But you can always get the, like I say, you can get the metal sights for the rear on there. The front is metal. The back one, plastic. Don't know why. That's just what they did. Cost savings. But they're still pretty good. They pick up really nice. They got nice big dots there, real easy to see, quick to pick up. And they also added forward slide serrations for those people that really like forward slide serrations. For press checks, I guess if that's your thing, you use that. The only thing I use it for is if I'm unloading and I just want to drop the round in my handle, I'll grab it like overhand like that and just drop it in my hand. But otherwise, just small little changes there. It's a little more smoothed out overall. Just a little more refined all around. Functionally though, pretty much the same gun. I mean, it's the same takedown process, just like a Glock. Again, we showed it's unloaded here, but pull your trigger, pull your slide back just a little hair, pull your takedown little switches here, slide comes off. So pretty much exact same thing. And the only reason I'm going to bother taking this apart for the moment here is just to show you one key difference between the two. The M&P here, this is a M&P 45. Now, you would think they would just use the same internals, but they're a totally different trigger system on this. The M&P series here actually has the striker. It cocks it fully, and all it is it's almost like a single action trigger, really, because when you pull the trigger on this little trigger bar thing here, it just releases the striker. This one on the SD series is a lot like the Sigma in that it pulls. It has almost no. The striker is almost not cocked at all. It's just barely hung up on there, and then you're finishing the full cocking of the striker, and then it releases. So it pulls back and down. As you watch the little thing here, it kind of, see, it goes lower and then it releases the striker. So it's a different system of trigger, and as a result of that, you have a completely different trigger pull. Now, this is way better than the Sigma in terms of trigger pull. It's a lot lighter. The Sigma was notorious for having a really long, heavy 12-pound or thereabouts trigger pull out of the box. And as I mentioned in the other video, you could modify the trigger to make it a lot easier to live with, but just the fact that you have to modify a trigger to make it decent is kind of silly. This one right out of the box, I would say, is pretty much the same as a modified Sigma in terms of trigger pull weight. It's about 8 pounds, I would think. I don't have a trigger scale, but that's what the going estimate is as far as trigger pull weight. Now, it is long, I will say. Now, you can watch here. See all that take up? And until you get all the way back there, see, it's pretty long, and then the reset is basically all the way out. It's got a nice click to it. It's even got a louder and more, you can feel it better than even the M&P, the Shield even. So when you let it out, it's got a pretty good click there, but you're almost all the way out. Whereas, say, on the Shield here, for example, just showing we're unloaded. Now the Shield, not much take up, it's just kind of that little first bit, and then that's it. And then your reset, so you're not all the way out, like right out here. So it's about half as much as far as reset on there for this as opposed to this. Still not a huge issue, but if you're someone like me that I carry this as my big one and this is my small one for concealed carry, and if you're out on the range, you're shooting one after the other, you kind of have to adjust. I was shooting this one first, and then I switched back to this. And when I go to do a follow-up shot, I was short stroking. I was going like here, and then, oh yeah, and I'd have to let it all the way out and then fire. So it's kind of a training thing, but it's not really likely you're going to notice it in a stressful situation. You're probably most likely just going to just slap the trigger, just in a panic or whatever. But so that's something to note there. Now, one thing I really have always loved about the Sigma series and the SD both, the overall size of this. This is a perfectly mid-sized pistol. I don't know why they didn't just make this a M&P and just have the same trigger, because really it's so close otherwise. Here's your full-size M&P, and get it overhead here. See, this one, the full size, it's about 3/4 of an inch longer. Same exact width. It's got a little beaver tail there. That's about it. Same grip angle, trigger, everything shaped same. And then your height of your grip. This is the thing. Now, if you get the 9mm, this holds 17 rounds. This one, 16. You're giving up 1 round. This might not seem like a big difference to a lot of people, but you see that difference right there, that angle? This angled grip on the SD series, as opposed to this more flat type of base on the M&Ps, this makes a huge difference in concealability. So in terms of concealed carry, this is more like say a Glock 19, which would be between the 26, which is their compact, and the 17, which is their full size. That would be the same thing as this being a Glock 17 and this being a Glock 26. So it's a nice happy medium between the two. And you have this very, very lightweight for its size. This is really almost the same weight as the Shield, believe it or not. And I think a lot of that has to do with this grip. Like I said, they're a different kind of plastic, but they're practically the same weight. I mean, we're only talking like a couple ounces difference. Of course, when you load this with 16 rounds, yeah, it gets a little heavier, but it's still very, very lightweight. I can carry this all day long. It is not a bother. Of course, this is a little easier, but that's obvious. So it's just great for its size. For concealed carry, I mean, you're getting, again, 16 rounds. A little caveat there on the +1 thing, but it's supposed to be 16 +1, but I'll get to that. But 16 rounds, nice compact package there. You don't really have to dress around this. I mean, I wear just jeans and a t-shirt, and this is easy as heck to carry. As you've seen on my other video with the how concealing a full-size pistol is not that hard. With a Sigma, which is exactly the same dimensions as this, it's doable. You don't have to dress around your gun. It's not a huge thing. So it's great in terms of concealed carry and even home defense. You know, again, you have a Picatinny rail, you can put a light, a laser on there, or whatever, a bayonet if that's your thing. And for the price, I paid, I think, $350 out the door from Sportsman's Warehouse for this thing. That's it. And you get 2 magazines. 2 16-round magazines, stainless, with a stainless slide, lifetime warranty. It's pretty hard to beat. You know, for the money, it's a heck of a nice pistol. Flawlessly reliable. I've put a couple hundred rounds through this already, but I've put multiple types, and we're talking 2 different types of full metal jacket, 3 or 4 different types of hollow points. Not one single little hiccup. Perfect. So, shoots great. Wonderful. Now, gotta get in some negatives here, and I know I'm dragging on for quite a while here, I'm rambling, but for one thing, being that this is a $350 or $325 pistol thereabouts, this is not going to have the same refinement as a $450 to $550 pistol, which is what this usually runs for. So it's going to be literally a little rough around the edges. And in this case, that meant around the grip here, which I was just going raving about how wonderful it is. Yes, it's shaped and everything, but the molding of it, when they cast this plastic, it has a lot of these sharp edges where the seams are, like right here, around the edge here, around here, on your magazines, around the back here. Enough to the point where when you grab this and you're shooting it, it would actually kind of almost cut into your skin a little bit around here. So what I ended up having to do, and I kind of tend to do it with most of my carry guns, but I just took some fine 220 grain or grit sandpaper and just smoothed around here, and just any part that just felt rough if I dragged my fingers over it like this when it was loaded. So that way, whenever I'm carrying this, and this is rubbing against my side or against my stomach, depending if I'm carrying appendix carry or on my hip, this is not going to chew the crap out of my skin and annoy me or irritate my skin or whatever. You know, it's just one of those little things. It doesn't seem like it would be a lot, but it's something that really does affect you if you don't fix the issue. So you're going to have to probably sand a few little rough spots here and there. So that's kind of a The feed ring, surprisingly, I didn't really need to polish. It's kind of hard to show here, but it's pretty smooth right out of the box, and the barrel doesn't have those ridges like the last one, the Sigma I had. It had kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like dragging your thumbnail over the material of your jeans that kind of had all these weird ridges from milling. This one is very, very smooth. And it's got a strange amount of muzzle flip for its size, too. As I mentioned, it's, I think I mentioned on the Shield video, this, for some reason, has less muzzle flip, especially if I'm using the extended magazine, where you can get a full-size grip on there. This, for some reason, has less muzzle flip than this. Now, I'm not talking recoil per se, because they feel almost the same in terms of recoil. Neither one's going to make your hands sore. You can shoot hundreds of rounds with these in a day, not get sore hands. And they have probably within a couple ounces of weight within each, between the two. But for some reason, this one has a little more muzzle flip. I don't know why. And I'm thinking the only thing I can think of that explains that is this has more slide mass. You got more material moving here than you do with this. And this has a tighter spring on it because of its size as opposed to this. The Shield uses a double spring. So I'm thinking this is probably the reason why this guy has less muzzle flip than this one. It's just a tighter spring, and it's a more more compression under recoil. So this has more muzzle flip for some reason, just a difference in recoil spring design, and probably because of the weight of the slide. It's just more mass, more inertia. It just tends to pull it up a little more for some reason. Again, it's not uncontrollable. It's not heavy recoil. It does have a pretty low bore axis, as you can see here. Not really low. I mean, we're not talking like CZ75 or car arms or anything like that, but it's pretty low, and you can get a pretty high grip on here. The trigger, as I mentioned, is pretty long. It's not consistent with the M&P. I don't know why they didn't just make them all and just make this just a mid-sized M&P, but I guess maybe it's cheaper to make the trigger design this way. I don't know the specifics of it, but that's just the way they did it. It's a longer travel, and for some people, if you're into that, that's fine. It doesn't really bother me per se. I can still shoot this reasonably accurate. It's just something that some people really get hung up on. Oh, the trigger's horrible, oh, like it's the worst thing in the world. So I don't know. And one last thing on these, the magazines on here, I never had this problem with the Sigmas. It's the same capacity as a Sigma, and the Sigma magazines will work in this. But for some reason, the SD magazines, I have 3 of these. That comes with 2. I bought 1 extra, and all 3 of them, if you load these, getting that 16th round in there is a freaking nightmare. Just, even with a mag loader, it is tighter than heck. And then once you get it in there, try and slap this in, it almost won't lock into place. If you smack it in pretty good, it'll lock in, but then your slide almost doesn't want to cycle. That it might just be a break-in thing. Again, I've put a few hundred rounds through it. It's gotten a little better, but I still can't +1 load this thing. It's kind of ridiculous. So I might just have to buy a Sigma magazine just to see if it'll work a little better with a +1 loading, because I was able to load my SW9VE Sigma with 16 +1 in the chamber, and it worked perfectly. So I don't know, strange but true. But otherwise, I mean, you're still dealing, you got 16 rounds. If you load the magazine full, it'll strip the top round off there, no problem, no malfunctions, and you've got 16 rounds. That's still not bad capacity. That's basically a 15 +1 arrangement, which is the same as, I don't know, a Beretta 92 or Glock 19, which is perfectly fine. You're only giving up 1 round. So it's just something to note. And if you have, if you're carrying spare mags, I would just carry 15 rounds in the spare mags instead of 16, because if you don't completely empty your other magazine and you want to slap it in there, again, if you can't get the slide to cycle with a round in there, that's no good. So just for one, at least until you get the magazines broke in, just load 15, and if you're gonna put one in, +1 in there, 15 in here, 1 in the chamber, you're good to go. Anyway, sorry for being so chatty and lengthy on this one, but I love this pistol. I feel that between the Sigma and the Shield, between these two, that pretty much covers all the bases in terms of my concealed carry needs. This one I can carry pretty much year round, but if I just need something just a little more compact, or if I'm going to walk around a little, this is lighter and thinner, and it's just for when the occasions when I can't carry that. So there you go. Ideal carry pistol for the money, for the design, and everything. So for what it's worth, that's my 2 cents on that. Thanks for watching.